Hey, what up, folks? So we're back again with another video. We got a 2013 it's a Prius C, aka Aqua. Customer complaint is, hold on, let me just fix this. Right, customer complaint is that his vehicle cuts off from time to time. Check light is on, so we're gonna scan the vehicle and see exactly what's going on. Right, so let's pull out the scan tool. We're gonna look for, do I do a VIN search? No, I'm not. Let's do Asian. Right, so we're gonna look for Toyota. We're gonna look for manual. I can't do automatic, but I believe with these hybrid, you tend to have issues, you know. So I'm gonna go into Aqua NHP. That's the model. Right, it's a 2013, I believe. So I'm gonna look for between 2012, 11. Sorry. I'm gonna diagnose this. Doesn't really matter the year, but just press OK. Alright, so let's go into diagnostic functions. Let's do auto scan. As I said, he was driving along to work and the vehicle basically shut off. He switched the key off and he put it back on again and it was able to start, and well, she got to work, right? But he said that he had some codes that popped on, came up like 3 weeks ago, and he took it to another shop and they removed the codes, and well, they didn't fix it, they just removed the codes. He got like 13, what's that, 130,000 kilometers on the dash, right? So let's see exactly. No, did I clay? Oh man, why did I do that? Alright, so the codes got cleared by mistake. You saw that happen on live on tape. I'm gonna start the vehicle up again and see if it throws that code. Alright, so what we can do, we can activate the electric water pump this way, right? And that allows the water pump to speed up, right, and let me know if it's working or not, right? But it definitely got issues with the water pump. I'm gonna change that rotor out, right, and I'm gonna basically use this to help cycle the coolant through the system after I replace that water pump. So I don't need to do that right now because I already know the problem. As I said, I gotta go after that rotor in the water pump, or I can replace the water pump. But let's talk to the client and see exactly what they like to do, and then I'll figure it out from there, right? So we don't need to activate anything at this present time, but we can. All right, let's open this hood and see exactly what's going on. This hood, under this hood is very dusty, right? The pump is located under the airbox, right? So I gotta take the airbox off and get access to the pump, and let's see if we can do it from on top or if I need to jack the vehicle up. All right, so this is the real reason why manufacturers decided to separate the water pump on these vehicles, because they didn't want to take the chance that customers was driving with a faulty water pump, right? So this coolant here, right to my right, let's see if I can get you closer like that. Right, so this coolant here is for the DC converter, the inverter assembly, right? And this coolant here is for the engine, right? So the reason why the manufacturer separate the two, because they don't want, when, let's say your radiator had a hole, or your, let's say coolant or something like that was leaking, right? They don't want you to destroy this. So that's why they made it separate. I have a water pump for it right here, but that's not the problem right now. The problem is that water pump for the engine side needs to replace. So we're gonna just blast these things out. It's kind of dusty, right? Kind of messing with my sinuses. I'm not sure exactly why they didn't keep this engine clean. Alright, so that's out. I gotta take that out. So we got those things removed, right? Is the reason why they separate this reservoir, which is for the inverter, separate from the engine, which is this one, right? So this is the water pump right here. It's very dusty, so I gotta blast that off, separate it. Yeah, so I'm gonna just take this pump off, right? Take this jack off. You don't need to disconnect the battery or nothing like that. So I take this off. I'm gonna blast the bolts from around the housing and take it off. Coolant is gonna fall on the ground, or if you put a catchment there, that'll be good enough. Alright, so I removed all the bolts from around the pump. So I'm just gonna take my time and pull it out. Right, just had to move some other stuff before to get easy access to take it out. Right, so this is the last bolt. I left a bolt there to keep it suspended. I'm just gonna bring it from on top. Can't go from the bottom because the compressor is in the way. So we're just going to pull this out like this. Alright, this is how the pump looks. Right, this is the one that came out from this vehicle. So I just gotta clean up like all the surface area. Right, you don't have no silicone, so you don't need to put any silicone. You just gotta make sure when you put the pump back that is the area is clean. You could just pass like a razor blade or a scraper or something like that, and just clean off that area where the seal is. Right, I advise to replace the seal, right, to prevent any kind of leaks, because most likely this would have been compressed already. So we're gonna take this rotor out. In fact, let me do it right here. Let me see if I can get it right here so y'all can see. So I got my hands on the new water pump rotor, right? We're just gonna put this one here so I'm not gonna damage the customer car, right? I'm gonna just take this lock-in mechanism off and pull this rotor out. Now, if you don't have that mechanical mindset to do these things, I advise you not to. Right, see if you can get someone to give you a hand. Right, I know some might see it and think it's that easy. It is once you know what you're doing, but if you're not sure, you know, see if you get some professional help. So we're just gonna take this out and see what is going on.
1 hour later.
Alright, so the client decided to go with a new water pump. This is it right here. This is the basically the cars that it works on, the 1NZ, 2ZZ, stuff like that, the Aqua, the Prius, the Lexus, right? They have various types, right? This is an aftermarket pump, right? They have the original, which is more costly, right? So you have two options. You can go with a pump, entire pump like this one, assembly, or you can go with the rotor alone, right? In this case, his rotor, it started to split right here, and that is what caused it to drag within the water pump, right? So it's a magnet basically, and when the magnet shifts, it tends to push against the housing of the rotor and it creates like a drag. So right now you see I'm spinning this one like this, right? So that's why his code was coming like in and out, right? I'm taking it out right now. It's gonna give you a little struggle, but you see it comes out pretty easy, right? Now let's try this one that I have here. Right, this one that I have here, it's very hard to come out because, and also when I'm trying to spin it like this, it's creating like a drag. So let's see if we can get this one out. Right, and you see exactly what's going on. This one, this magnet shift, right, and it's basically pushing against this housing right here, and it creates like a crack, right? So this causing a drag within this circumference right here, and it's slowing down the rotor from turning and causing that code to be triggered. So we're gonna continue with the installation. Let's get back to the car. Right, so this is a fresh pump, right? It's an aftermarket pump. It does have the original one, but it's a little bit more on the costly side. But this will do, right? So it comes with a gasket, also some instructions, and if you want, you could probably use Google Translate to see what that say. But as I said, I'm not going to go through that, right? It does have the rotor, complete rotor assembly installed, right? It works really good, right? I mean, this brand and the guy that supplies it, he does a good job, right? So let's continue the installation. Alright, so with that complete, right, you're gonna just basically refill the engine with coolant, right? I'm using Xerox paint, right? I'm just gonna use the no spill kit, let it fill up on its own. So once you got that filled up, right, I'm just using the scan tool to basically prime the pump, right? You could activate the water pump via the scan tool, and that will allow the the reservoir to do what it's supposed to do and pull down. And yeah, that's about it, really, in a nutshell, right? So once this is finished, I'm gonna start the vehicle up, right? I'm gonna also put the heater on in the vehicle. This will allow the coolant to circulate through all where the coolant passage is supposed to be. And you got to make sure and do that because they have times air bubbles are trapped in the system and cause the vehicle to overheat, right? So you don't want that. So anytime you're doing this, as I said, you just basically prime the pump, right? And you got the coolant circulating and get all the air bubbles out before you start the vehicle, and then you close off, and that should be it. Very simple task. Alright, so since we got that done, right, I'm gonna remove all the codes that was on the system and basically finish, top up the coolant, and that should be a wrap, right? So we got no fault codes. Let's start the vehicle up and see if we have any check light on. Right, so as I said, I'm gonna just let this idle for a bit. Right, this water pump is an aftermarket pump, but it's really a good pump. So I'm monitoring the RPM speed of the vehicle, also the water pump, right, to make sure that is doing what it's supposed to do. Right now I have it also, the vehicle is in maintenance mode, so I'm just letting it run on its own, right? If I leave it as normal, it won't cycle like it's supposed to. So right now I'm just letting it run in maintenance mode for a bit, and you see that the ECU is basically telling the water pump to turn on and off at various times and at these various speeds, right? So we're just gonna let's look at these things a bit. As I said, I like to take time and look at the data, and you know, it helps me diagnose these cars a little better and quicker once I get familiar with the, you know, the numbers I'm seeing or the information that this the scan tool is displaying. So we definitely have a lot of PIDs, right? So I'm not gonna go through all of them and try to explain them, but yeah. Right, so with all that completed, right, I got the new water pump installed, I got my coolant topped up, right? Basically you see my RPM is within range of each other, right? I have no leaks on this pump, and I want to call that a fix, right? So you see that I also have no air bubble, right? And I'm just going to check the reservoir and make sure that is at the full mark, or if it looks like it's actually over full, right? It does have a little bit too much coolant in this bottle, so I'm going to extract as much as I can. But as I said, man, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, comments, you dig? Leave it down in the post, and I'll try to see if I get back to it. Until next time, take it easy. Alright, so I'm just curious to see what this item is consists of, right? I know it's a magnet, right? Because when you put it against something, you know, it sticks, right? So this plastic covering protects the magnet, right, from basically the coolant and corrosion, I believe, right? But when the magnet shifts internally, well, what happens? It comes in contact with the plastic, and the plastics tend to develop cracks, especially like along here where the seam is, right? And basically it slows down the pump when it's inside this circumference, right? So this one is the one that came off this vehicle, and you see it's still moving smooth, but from, you know, if you move it slow, you feel like it's sticking, right? Where this one was, you know, it swells. So because it can't move in here, it creates like a drag inside this water pump, right? And slows it down, right? So we got to make sure that this rotor is always spinning, so is to make sure that you have proper circulation for coolant system. And as I said, it's basically made up of a heavy duty housing. It also did some research on it. They said that the material is made of ABS material, right? It's basically ideal to resist corrosion, temperature, and it lasts a while once it's in the case, right? But after a while, it tends to fail and through the P0261B code, right? But you gotta be careful also how you diagnose in this, right? You have various types of, all this one code is broken up into several things. It might be a circuit fault, it might be a performance fault. So you just gotta make sure when you diagnose it is you know, the correct thing. So let's open this up and see exactly what's going on, right? So I tried my best to take this apart, but this one is really tough. Right, so let's explain what these parts are, right? So I had to destroy it. So the plastic housing for this magnet is really tight on this magnet, right? So for that to swell, that means a lot of coolant or basically corrosion that started to swell the magnet and cause it to push the plates against the housing, which was coming in contact with the rotor, right? But this also here is the impeller, right? This is called a strout, and this is the impeller here, right? So we call this like a centrifugal pump, right? Where the coolant comes into the eye of the pump, right? Remember, this will be inside the engine. It comes in the eye and it throws outwards towards the pump circumference, right? Basically the area where it's pumping, right? So it comes in here, the coolant, and let's take this apart, and it comes and goes into these veins and it throws outwards while it's rotating at a high RPM, right? And that will cause the pressure, right, to when it gets squeezed between these impellers, right? these veins. So it's nothing special, but as I said, man, it was just a little curiosity that, you know, I decided to just open one up and see how it looks. I already know how it looks, but I just wanted to, you know, explain to you what exactly happens here, right? So when you use the incorrect coolant, or after a while, you know, having the same coolant in these vehicles for a period of time, it's sent to cause corrosion, and these things get attacked, right? So I mean, you can't get everything that lasts forever, right? So I mean, this is just a replacement. You can replace the whole pump, as I said earlier in the video, or you can replace the rotor, right? Depending on how bad it is and depending on the code that you got, right? So you have different types of codes and have different types of methods to, you know, rectify this. So just thought I would discuss this. Take it easy.